Hello everyone, this recording is the first of many audio recordings we have planned, and our aim is to discuss about the subtleties of Indian classical music in a format that can be reached to everyone. We feel that it's a very dynamic and versatile subject, but not widely discussed. Efforts have been made before to bridge the gap, but they could not escape the boundary of learned audience as we know of them. And in today's episode, it would be like a pilot episode because we would discuss about very basic questions, and once we become familiar with the vocabulary of our Indian classical music, we can go forward and say for a week we can take one particular theme to discuss about, and we can elaborate on that. So I would directly go to Anrin with the very basic question that what is raga? And if you can demonstrate that with your instrument sitar, that would be great. To me, it would be to me, as I feel about different performance. Say, if I take any eminent artist like Ustad Vilayat Khan and so from different interviews, what I have heard is that raga is basically a particular mood or a particular shade of our psychology. So in some sense that a particular rag can take different form depending on the mood of the artist also. So I don't know the technicalities, but to me it's more like what mood you are in. So if you are in a sad mood, you would probably go towards notes that signify a sad tune, and you call it a particular raga. But I bet that it's more complex in Indian classical music, and there are more grammatical issues with that. But I am not qualified enough to comment on that. So that's my perspective about it.
So I think you kind of mentioned like the meat of the entire question. Rag, so the rag word literally translates to emotion. So a rag, I think people who came up with Indian classical music, they understood that a certain group of notes, a certain group of phrases together can represent emotions, they can represent moods, seasons, time of the day, etc., etc. Technically speaking, why those notes or why those group of notes actually represent that emotion, or why that makes a listener or a player feel those emotions, that is probably too complex to even discuss now. So basically a rag represents a set of emotions, and that emotion a player when he plays, or a singer when he or she sings, not only feels himself or herself but also tries to convey to the listener. Now, great artists, you mentioned Ustad Vilayat Khan Sahab, and of course a rendition by Ustad Vilayat Khan Sahab has the potential to make you feel the emotion more than probably me, or probably somebody who's not as learned as him, of course. So the idea is how well the listener, the player himself understands the emotion and how well he's able to convey it. So
can you give me a very, very small demonstration without going into much depth?
So I think it's let me play this, and you will
sure.
Excuse me for the tuning, because
no problem.
For example, I'm playing this rag called Charukeshi, just a small demonstration, and Charukeshi has a devotional feeling, and I'll try to convey that. Of course, I'll make mistakes because I'm not that
sure.
Just this combination of notes, let me just go through the rag very quickly. see the overall mood of this rag, it's serious, but it's got a serious beauty to it. It's not overly serious.
It's not sad either. So it's not melancholic either.
It's devotional.
It's devotional, yeah.
Because when you are praying, for example, or when you are spiritual, you're not. You're serious, of course. It's not fun.
Right.
But there's a beauty which is associated to it. So that was Charukeshi, and just this combination of notes, I wasn't doing something, I was just going through a few phrases of the rag. I was not really playing it for a general normal performance would be 3 hours. By the time you hear this combination of notes, these phrases, these patterns for 3 hours, when you leave the hall, when you're listening to somebody great, when you leave the hall, for the next couple of hours you're in that mode.
So it's like an impression, a deep impression, a psychological footprint that the music will leave on you.
Yes.
So it's like a meditative state that you will go into after listening to it for hours.
Right. When you listen to the live performances of
the great legends,
and when you leave the hall, you have goosebumps.
Right.
You leave the hall feeling that you leave the hall feeling what the player wants you to feel. And so that is total control. I mean, that is the beauty of this thing, because if I feel sad and if I am playing good for a couple of hours, and my listener also becomes sad. If I am happy, then I should be able to convey that to the listener.
Right. So it's a communication from one soul to another in terms of music.
I think that's the best way to put it. I mean, I think the ability of these group of notes to make you feel something.
So just to bring the question. I mean, the question I started with to bring the flavor of that into the picture. I would request you to play something which is completely on the other side of the spectrum. So it's like devotional. You play some mood that is completely different, so that our listeners can understand what the difference we are pointing at.
So that was devotional. Let's go to a little bit maybe more romantic. Again,
you have to retune your sitar.
This is going to be a common thread.
So guys, just a small note on Charukeshi. The people who might got interested, search for Charukeshi on YouTube, and you might find a small Afghani tune based on it called Anar Anar, which is commonly played by Ustad Rais Khan. So it's widely popular, and also I believe Hirak Khan played it some time back also. So those recordings are available online.
Understand the difference in mood. This is a much more romantic, much more jolly, much more happy kind of rag. So I think again, there is no, and this is my understanding, there is no pure single tracked emotion which a rag represents. So you might find a rag which says, I'm happy.
Yeah.
It's not
yeah.
just happy. There
Yeah.
are many shades of happy that you
Right,
can find in this
right.
rag. For example,
It's more subtle than that. Yeah.
this is not purely happy.
No.
Right?
No.
This combination of notes makes you feel a shade of happiness. You will not say this is, I mean, you won't listen to this rag just to feel one shade of happiness.
Yeah.
That's what
This is not purely exuberant.
yeah,
but
this is not
yeah.
purely exuberant.
Yeah. There's a sublime kind of happiness that
And this is the greatness of the players.
Yeah.
Because I think
they can bring down.
yes,
yeah.
they can bring everything out of it.
Yeah.
I have heard Ustad Rais Khan Sahab or Ustad Bilayat Khan Sahab say multiple times in interviews that you let us play one rag 1,000 times.
And
Every 1,000 times is going to sound different. Every 1,000 times you're going to feel something different. And so that's the
very true.
yeah.
So, one question that comes into mind whenever you play something, or I request you to play a particular raga, you play something. Now, what is that something? In Western classical music, we know there are tunes that are produced by legendary musicians, and they are recorded properly, and
Yes.
and the students of Western classical music learn for years
Yes.
from those well kept notations, and they play it. But when you are playing something, you don't have an open book in front of you, so you are playing sort of, and
Right.
so what's the deal here?
So, so Indian music is, since we don't have really a textbook, and the only rules you have is the rules of this rag, right? And people have played it many different ways. There are some basic rules, of course, but when you when a player plays the rag, he's going on experience of listening to thousands of old recordings, thousands of great artists, because our music is totally word of mouth. You probably know that.
Yeah.
We never had.
So it's also a result of a long tradition that we
Yes,
have of the master disciple,
Right.
where they used to live in the same house, as we heard about very old stories
Right,
of.
yes. I mean, it comes from the
Parampara kind
Guru
of.
Shishya
Yeah,
Parampara,
yeah.
where the,
Or gharana.
where you kind of where your guru becomes the central point of your universe.
Exactly.
You trust your guru as much as probably more than you trust your mother and father, because
Yeah.
I mean, your guru has the ability to not teach you anything, and also has the ability to teach you everything.
Everything.
So you're kind of dependent on this guru of yours.
Yeah.
Plus, it also comes down from the fact that
So he imparts knowledge.
he imparts knowledge, and the point is, he is that powerful person who can impart knowledge, because you cannot get it from anywhere else, right? And the second thing is also because the music itself is slightly different, in the sense that Western music, I think Western composers, they were organized, and they wanted to propagate their music, so they had notations, and they told people to play in a certain way.
Yeah.
Our musicians did not want to do that. Our musicians said, okay, we have these ragas, which, by the way, these ragas probably date back to sometimes, I'm not sure, but old Indian scriptures, which are really, really old.
Yeah. So I heard about this 5 main ragas that probably came from Vedas, and
Yeah.
then there are multiple ragas that are created in time of Mughal Emperor,
Mughal
and
emperors,
yeah. So it's a pretty old tradition that's.
And as I said, it's very difficult. I think what I said a little bit earlier, that only answers this question, because if some musician plays the same thing in 1,000 different ways, what notation can you have?
Right.
For example, Tansen came up with a
Yeah.
lot of ragas.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure every single day he wasn't singing the same thing in Akbar's court, because
Yeah,
then
exactly.
Akbar would be pretty
Yeah.
angry. So which form of that raga do you really preserve? So you don't really have compositions. You have these ragas, you have these emotions, you have a way to play, and then you go upon your experience of listening to the great masters and how they have played or sung this raga, and then try to improvise.
So we would come to, like your instrument sitar and concentrate on that, because we would, this is our kind of medium,
Right.
for reaching our audience. And so in Western classical music, it's more digitized, as I feel, because the combination of notes are pretty straightforward and they come in an order, and we play like that. So, but here, from one note to another note, when you're moving, the movement is not very digitized. It's sort of kind of bending, and
Yes.
and we see that. So, like, you can demonstrate a very small.
So you see, this entire thing was not. That's what I basically played.
But you played it like
Yeah. Because here we are trying to emulate the voice. And
Okay.
the voice is not digital, the human voice. So when you sing, it's not digital.
right.
And so if you're trying to emulate that, you have to play in terms of curves, although your instrument might be might have some limitations, because this is of course digital. The sitar is digital. It's very similar to the guitar, for people who have never seen a sitar. It has these frets on which you play, but you have to bring the voice.
Yeah.
And so how do you do it? And in sitar we have this thing called mir. Mir means
Slight bending of
the
note.
string.
Yeah.
But you can do a lot of stuff with mir. You could
Yeah.
So you saw the sustain of the mir.
Yes.
I limited the amount of strokes I want to put here, because
Right.
I don't want it to be digital. So I'm not doing this.
No.
So the sustain of the old note is taking you, and this is what you can do with mir, because you cannot do it on the notes.
So it's a way of emulating the voice, as you were saying.
Yes.
So before we can also talk about notes, we need to know that what are those notes on sitar. So a very small demonstration of the notes would be very helpful.
So the notes are the same as the notes are same all over, I think.
Yeah.
So
So this general sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa ni dha pa ma
Yeah.
ga re sa. Yeah.
and as I said, the sitar is not. If you want to play the sitar without mir, this is what it sounds like. So this sounds kind of like a guitar.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's different than guitar, but I understand the essence of the music is not expressed
so the
properly.
essence of
Yeah.
the music comes when you can emulate the voice.
And that brings the emotion. So that lingering sound effect you have even after the stroke,
Yes.
that actually
that you cannot do when you are playing in the.
Yeah.
And this is. I think there are other Indian instruments that emulate the voice, like the sarod, that does not have frets, so it's easier because you could do things like
sliding. Yeah.
sliding. So because you don't have the frets, so you don't have that problem.
Right.
So that's also again emulating the voice. Then there is Surbahar. Surbahar is from where the sitar came, and that tries to emulate even further because that is like that has the strings are more. It's like a bass sitar.
Okay.
So you are actually going much closer to the voice,
right?
Because this is a slightly more trebly sound.
Yeah.
You have the actual bass.
So the people who might get interested about this instruments, major exponents of Surbahar are Imrat Khan, Ustad Imrat Khan, and one of his son, I guess, plays now, and Annapurna Devi was also an exponent of Surbahar. You may want to check it out.
Another amazing player of Surbahar is Pandit Santosh Banerjee.
Yeah, yes, from
whose
Calcutta.
lineage actually goes back
To Ustad Dabir Khan.
to Tansen, because
Yeah,
Ustad
yeah.
Dabir Khan Sahib is Tansen's
Exactly.
descendant, so
I probably there is a Darbari recording available
Yes.
online from Pandit Santosh.
I think one thing I should clarify here, that sitar also, I'm saying that the sitar here is emulating the voice,
Yeah,
but that's just one particular gharana of the sitar,
right.
and we'll talk about that when we talk about gharanas later.
Yeah,
But there is also another gharana that
Yeah.
emulates the instrument rather than the voice. So that's
Yeah.
a different style of
so mostly those are known as Binkar Gharana.
Bina,
Yeah,
which try to emulate the bina,
the
sound of the
Veena. Yeah, which also descended from Drupad.
Drupad, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about these subtleties
Yeah, later.
But before that, I would like to ask us a question that when you say that we in Indian classical music we don't have compositions which are fixed and presupposed, so many people might think that it's just improvisation as we have in jazz. In Western classical music. So, but there is a difference, I guess, because it's like playing for hours and hours on a particular theme
Yes.
and emphasizing a particular mood, and still it doesn't get boring. You can hear a special rendition by Ustad Bilayat Khan for hours, and you would not
Right.
feel that something is repeating. So,
And that's a difference, right? Because, when you have fixed compositions, even jazz, and I'm nobody to talk about jazz, but my understanding is that you have a fixed composition and then you go around that composition, you improvise something about that composition. But overall, that's not something which goes for 3 hours. One composition is probably 10, 15, 20 minutes maximum. Right?
Yeah.
But here, and I think the basic difference is because there the composition is the main thing. You're trying to you're trying to generate some music out of it, right? You're trying to generate some flavor out of it. Here you're trying to generate some emotions. So it's harder, in my opinion, to generate an emotion. You cannot do it within 3 minutes. You cannot make somebody feel sad, happy, whatever in 3 minutes. So it takes hours. And it's not even the case that when a 3-hour composition, 3-hour performance is performed, things are not repeated. Of course, things will be repeated, but you repeat it for the emphasis. You want to emphasize on certain notes, certain phrases, because that's the main meat of the rag. The second thing is we have bandishes, which are fixed, and you improvise over those bandishes. For example, this is a composition in Rageshri, and this is actually a vocal bandish also. I don't remember the words, but the main thing is this is going to be your bass, and then you improvise on top of it. For example, now our improvisations are broken up into 2 parts, and we should talk about this in detail later, but one is the tans and one is the vistars. So the tans are fast moving compositions, something like you see, I'm coming back to that bandish all the time, and this goes on and this goes on with the rhythm. So I'm trying to always hit the point in the rhythm from which the bandish starts. Another part is the bandish, another part is the vistar, which is basically exposing the rag a little bit more.
So this is still the Bistar of Rageshri.
Yes. Keep in mind that rhythm is going on behind. And then you mix and match. So in Bistar you could have Tans. In Tans you can mix up a little bit of Bistar. And you can have Vistars of different types. You can have Vistars which play with the Tal, which is the rhythm. You can have Vistars which play with the notes, the mood of the rag. There are complexities in that. Tans, or there are different types of Tans. There are different speeds of Tans. But mainly you are coming back to the same phrase, the same Vandish as we call it. And so that also imposes the fact that there is a rhythm, and the Vandish starts from a very particular part of the rhythm, right? So we have a cycle of, let's say, 16 beats, so it repeats after 16 beats. And the Vandish starts from a very particular point of those 16 beats. So whatever you're playing, you have to keep the rhythm in mind, because you have to come back. For example, the Vandish starts from 7, you have to keep the counting in mind. You're thinking in terms of 16, 16, 16, 16.
Okay, so you are allowed to improvise as much as you can, but within a framework.
Within
the framework is the notes that are given by the raga, and also the rhythm you are playing in.
Yes.
You cannot just go out of the rhythm. So if you are playing a 16-beat composition and you can improvise for multiple of 8s or multiple of 16, but you have to.
Not really, because you can improvise in any form in terms of rhythm I'm talking about. You can improvise in any rhythm you want, in any multiples you want. Just keep the mathematics in mind. So that's the point. So if you play something which is a groove of 10, right? After 5 cycles you hit 50. But what you should remember is then you are playing a cycle of 64. So you need something which will add those 14 to you. So you're always thinking in terms of those multiples of 16, but in between those multiples of 16 you can do whatever you want, whichever way you want. You can slow it down, you can make it fast, you can there are tals which are in fractions, like tal of 5.5 beats and 9 3/4 beats, and they're just multiples.
The grammar of Indian classical music, the scope of the grammar is much broader than what we can discuss within this small time. But to just touch upon it, if I ask you that what's the significance of time when we discuss about rag, I think that's a very broad topic, but if you can touch upon it, that would be great, because often we heard that the rags are played according to the position of the sun, also the time of the day it's being played, and there are different mythological things that are attached to it, that the ragas of particular season and so on.
Yes.
So if you can give a very small demonstration of that would be great. So for example, to start with, I heard that Vairabi is a rag which is the rag of the morning.
Yes.
when just the sun rises and the birds are chirping, and with the first ray of sun.
What I'll do is I'll try to play a little bit of Bhairavi, since you kind of mentioned.
Yeah.
And then, the best thing is, like, I play and then you could try to describe what you are. What you think of it. Because as I said, I mean, as a musician, you're always trying to convey what you are playing to the listener. It does not matter whether you feel sad if the listener is feeling as if you're playing a very happy tone.
Exactly. So friends, this is Vairabi.
you can drift. Bhairavi is a rag which has all 12 notes, so you can drift in and out of rags.
So we talked about 7 notes, but there are.
Apart from sa and pa, re, ga, ma, da, ni, all have flat and sharp versions. So 5 notes, each with a sharp/flat version. So that means 12 notes.
Beautiful.
Now let me go to rag in the night. Bhairavi is very popular.
Bhairavi is very popular, guys, and friends. If you want to know more about Bhairavi, and also there are different popular songs based on it, and it's almost everywhere.
So now I'm playing a rag which is totally night. This is called Darbari, created by Tanseh. This uses a very similar group of notes. But the feeling is different. So this is Darbari. Similar kind of notes from what I was playing a little while earlier, Bhairavi. The only difference in note is we have the Shuddh Rishabh versus the Komal Rishabh. So in the Darbari you have the Shuddh Rishabh. While there you have the Komal Rishabh. As soon as you change the Rishabh, you get a completely different feeling. The phrase is very similar. This is Bhairavi.
is also the prog of Gandhar, I guess,
Yes,
which sets it apart.
Yeah, that's the this is a different kind of a note.
Yeah.
Now in books it's going to be written as Komal Gandhar. But
Yeah.
this is not really Komal Gandhar. This
Yeah.
is, you can
Exactly.
understand it's something.
Right.
It's
It's sorts of in the middle of.
it's somewhere in
yeah.
the middle of this note and this note.
So Gandhar and Komal Ray, Rishabh, I guess.
So, but if somebody reads a textbook,
Yeah.
they will find that the only difference between Bhairavi and Darbari is this Komal Rishabh and Shuddh Rishabh, and that makes that changes the time of the day, that changes the mood of the rag and everything.
So we got a very broad perspective about how the time would define a particular definition of rag. And to be more specific, as I heard that Darwari is a raga that is deeply melancholic in sense of mood. So we had a quite long discussion about the complicacies, and I guess we'd like to conclude today's session with a rag that you like and you want to play, and we would call it a day. Now we would end up with what raga do you want to play at end?
So I can continue with a little bit of Darbari, since this is
Great.
pretty late at night, and
Great. Yeah, sure.
this is the time.
Sure. So goodbye, friends. We would gather again as soon as we can, and we discuss about time-specific description of ragas. And goodbye for now.